Let me say that again, because some of you, it might go over your head. Black preachers and black civil rights activists, you should stop going to black churches and stop having rallies in black neighborhoods and having neighborhood sessions so you can discuss the injustice of racial oppression. You should have these meetings in white churches. Your congregation, the congregation that you're speaking to should be all white. Your audience that you're speaking to should be all white. Black civil rights activists and black preachers, you should start giving speeches and sermons and neighborhood assemblies to white audiences and talking to them about changing their mindsets regarding racial white racial superiority. Stop addressing these matters to black audiences. Black audiences are not the ones that are oppressing anybody. They're not the ones that have a need to have their mindset changed in regards to racial oppression. It is the mindset of white people that need to be changed, and your time, energy, and efforts need to be spent addressing these people. Now, you might be afraid or have some reservations about speaking to white people about their mental attitude. But if that's so, you need to have white preachers speak to that issue instead. Like I said before, even if you go to a white congregation and have white assemblies where the entire crowd is white, these people are not going to listen to you anyway. The most effective way to address the mindset of white people is to have white preachers, these so-called mega preachers. What about Kenneth Copeland, Joel Osteen, all these white men? Why aren't these white men speaking about racism and the existence of racism in America? Joel Osteen, Kenneth Copeland, Kenneth Hagin, all of these white preachers, why aren't they speaking about the existence of racism in America today? And why are they not fighting and leading the way, challenge and denounce the existence of racism? And why are they not addressing the mindset, the racist mindset of white people? Everybody come back and say, well, it doesn't matter. It's the spirit that matters. Well, when we get in the spirit, we'll be in the spirit. But until we get in the spirit, we're living here on earth. We're living here in the presence, in the flesh. And the flesh is expressing racial oppression and manifesting racial injustice when it comes to black people. So we cannot live in an imaginary world and simply dismiss the fact that racism exists. We cannot dismiss the fact that racism exists and merely try and divert a legitimate issue by saying that God is a spirit and everything, nothing matters unless, it doesn't really matter because we're spirit beings. We're not spirit beings. If somebody cuts you, but you will bleed. Spirits don't bleed. You're living here on earth in the flesh and blood. And until you die, you will live as a human being. So let's get off this spiritual thing about it doesn't matter because, you know, God is a spirit and we're spiritual brothers and sisters. Well, we're not spiritual brothers and sisters until we leave this flesh. So let's get out of that lie and stop trying to sidestep the issue at hand. This issue at hand is racism in America, not spiritual existence after we die. When we die, God will handle that, and we will be where we are in the spirit with God. Until that time, let's deal with reality where we're at now. We're in the flesh, and there is racism that exists in America, and you white preachers, Kenneth Copeland, Joyce Hagan, I can't name all of them, but all of them, all you preachers, out there, all you white preachers out there that refuse to denounce racism and the existence of racism and the need for there to be a change in the mental mindset of white America, a shame on you. God is looking at you. What do you think God has to say about white preachers' failure and to denounce racism? What do you think what do you think Jesus has to say about white preachers that say that they love Jesus and they are afraid and they absolutely deny the existence of racism in America? What do you think Jesus is saying right now when he's looking down at these white preachers saying that racism does not exist in America and there's no need to fight racism in America? What do you think Jesus is saying? Well, you can guess what he's saying if you read Revelations 1, because in Revelations 1 it says that Jesus was a black man. So Jesus sitting in heaven saying, man, I tell you, these people saying that they love me and they're my brothers, but if I was on earth, I would be a black man and they would be saying that I don't need any help. They would ignore me on earth. They would ignore me because I'm a black man. Revelation says that Jesus was a black man with an afro. And these white preachers that are down there now on earth are saying that there's no racism in America and there's no need for us to address racism or to address the injustice that's being done to black people. There's no need for us white preachers and for anybody white to be concerned about the racial oppression of black people, despite the fact that our Savior himself is a black man, and if he was on earth, we'll be ignoring him too. So to ignore black people and the racial oppression of black people here on earth is to ignore the oppression of Jesus Christ if he was on earth, because Jesus himself was a black man. And that is not something that I said. That's something that the Bible expresses in Revelations 1. It's expressed all throughout the Bible that the Israelites were black people. Paul was a black man. He was a black man. Peter said, I'm black. Paul was a black man. Moses was a black man. You know, it's all of these things are expressed in the Bible. You know, and I only mention that to exemplify the reoccurring theme that exists in the Bible about the color of the Israelites and Jesus. All throughout the Bible, it is expressly stated that the Israelites, Paul, Peter, John, Jesus' first cousin, Jesus himself, all these people were undeniably black people. So for any white preacher or white person to say that it really doesn't matter what color Jesus was, is to say that it really doesn't matter that we discriminate and oppress Jesus and the Israelites. It really doesn't matter that racial injustice exists against Jesus and the Israelites. If Jesus and the Israelites were on earth today as they were in the days of the Bible, racial oppression and racial discrimination would exist, and they would be inflicted with the same racial oppression that black Americans are experiencing today. So, black preachers and black civil rights activists, it's up to you. Continue going in circles and getting the same results. Continue marching on Washington, D.C., celebrating the annual celebration of Martin Luther King's March on Washington, D.C., covering some other man's ground that he's already covered. Continue marching over the Edmunds Pettus Bridge in celebration of what some other man did at another time concerning a real issue, or address real issues that exist today in your time? Are you going to celebrate what some other man did to end racial oppression in America? Are you going to celebrate Martin Luther King's march on Washington, D.C., or marching across the Edmunds Pettus Bridge? Are you going to celebrate another man's efforts to end racial injustice by marching on Washington or marching across the Edmunds Pettus Bridge every year? Are you going to merely make light of the efforts, the real efforts that were done by men in the past that were addressing real issues of their time and in their fight against racial injustice? Or are you going to fight against racial injustice yourself? Are you going to address real issues that exist in your time and make a legitimate effort to end racial injustice? Or are you going to just play games by celebrating another man's efforts? Or are you going to address racial injustice in a real way that exists in your time? My suggestion that to you, civil rights activists and black preachers, and it's just a suggestion, my suggestion to you is that you stop going in circles and try a new approach. The only approach that I think, in my humble opinion, that will have an effect on the mental disease of white supremacy is to go directly at the problem. It's a mental problem, so you change the mental problem, or you eradicate a mental problem by making a change in the mind, the mindset. And the only effective way of doing that is to have white preachers, or demanding that white preachers. They're not going to do it on themselves. If they were going to do it on themselves, they would have did it already. So you're going to have to take the effort, like civil rights activists and black preachers. You're going to have to make the concerted effort in your civil rights activities to direct them towards the white preacher. You're going to have to demand that the white preacher denounce the ideology of white racial supremacy and black racial inferiority. And you're going to have to demand that white preachers denounce each and every Sunday and every Wednesday at Bible study. It needs to be a priority issue on every Sunday school lesson and every church service. Every time there's something happening in a white church, they need to address the issue of white supremacy, and not only address it, but to denounce it. It's a serious problem that has affected America for the last 400 years. So it needs to be given serious attention. Not once a week, but every time a white congregation goes into the church. They need to get some counseling. Counseling, intensive counseling. Not until those men that are considered to be the moral leaders in white society take a stance against racial injustice and the abhorrent ideology of white supremacy will there be a change in the racial oppression and injustice against black people.